Welcome to our discussion for the statement of cash flows. So this is chapter 15 on our reference book, the statement of cash flows. If you look at our uh, figure here, the statement of cash flows and the financial statement analysis are two components where managerial and financial accounting overlaps. So the idea in financial accounting is used and the ideas in managerial accounting is used in analyzing statement of cash flows. Kaya nga, the statement of cash flows is relevant in understanding the overall standing of the company, especially on the flow of its resource cash. So at the end of this discussion, we will be able to describe the cash flow activities reported on the statement of cash flows. We prepare the cash flows from operating activities section of the statement of cash flows using the indirect method, the cash flows from investing activities, the cash flows from financing activities, and then we prepare the statement of cash flows. So the statement of cash flows has already been introduced to you in the lower years of your accounting degree. uh, and more of our appreciation now is how are we going to use this statement of cash flows in top management reporting. As our guide in our decision making, we will be able to describe and illustrate the use of the free cash flow in evaluating the company's cash flow. Okay. Some appendices on this reference will indicate the use of a spreadsheet to prepare the statement of cash flows under the indirect method. So, pwede mo itong magamit during uh, your practice and when you also assume work kasi in actual practice, ginagamitan naman talaga ng software and spreadsheets yung pag-generate ng cash flows. Then we prepare statement of cash flows under the direct method. Okay, we know that when we refer to the statement of cash flows, this is a company reporting the inflow or an outflow of its cash resources for a particular period. So we consider the generation of cash from operations, the maintenance and expansion of the operating capacity, the the meeting of our financial obligations, and the payment of dividends. So there are classifications between these cash flows. The flows from the operations, flow from investments, and flow from finances. So madali lang naman nating maintindihan when we look at the operating activities. These are cash flows that emanates from the regular operations of the businesses, and it directly affects the net income of the company. Example, the purchase and sale of merchandise by a retailer. So yung normal, makaka-receive ka ng bayad on the business, and kapag bumili ka naman ng raw materials or inputs to production or merchandise na ibebenta mo, that is a reduction on your cash flow. On your cash, I mean. So that is an outflow palabas. Yun yung normal operating activities. While under the investing activities, we know that when we refer to investment, this involves large and sizable amount of money. This, as an example, yung purchase and sale of fixed assets, nagbenta ka ng assets mo, such as equipment and buildings, these are consideration. This is an inflow. Dahil ikaw ay nagbenta, makaka-receive ka ng cash dyan. Inflow from the investing activities. When we refer to financing activities, ang ibig sabihin lang nito is that kulang iyong cash mo at kailangan mong gumawa ng activities that will supplement yung lacking or deficiencies on your cash requirements. So, kailangan mong mag-issue or mag-retire ng equity and debt securities in the form of stocks or debt instruments and many other items, mga financial instruments. And this affects the debt and equity of the company. So, the basic logic is that we add the cash flows from operating activities, we cash flows from investing, cash flows from financing, and then we have our net increase or decrease in cash. It will depend kung net increase or decrease yan. Okay? Then, we have to add the cash at the beginning of the period so as to get the cash at the end of the period. Okay. The ending cash on the statement of cash flows equals the cash reported on the statement of financial position. So dapat tally yan. Kaya nga kapag tiningnan yung statement of financial position, yung cash item, ang notes noon ay yung the cash flow statement. Although in some reporting, we require a separate statement of cash flow, kumbaga isang separate financial statement for the statement of cash flow. However, ang sinasabi lang dito is that yung cash na nireport mo sa yung statement of financial position should tally on the cash at the end of the period na nakareport doon sa yung statement of cash flows na normally ay ginagamit nilang doon sa notes. Diba sa notes to financial statements, nandun lahat yung detalye. So, kumbaga, pwedeng yung statement of cash flows, yun na rin yung magsisilbing notes on your financial statements for that item, for that account title, yung cash na account title. So this illustration will give you an insight on what items are considered as cash inflows and cash outflows depending on the activity. Kapag sale of products and provision of services, that is inflow kasi makakatanggap ka dyan. Kapag bibili ka ng inventory or you pay employees, yung workforce, and or you pay your relevant taxes, outflow yan. Kapag investing activity, pag inflow, kapag nagbenta ka ng PPE, makaka-receive ka ng cash. That is an inflow. From sale of investments also, income inflow yan ng cash on your part. Kapag ikaw ay bumili ng PPE or you purchase investments on the other side, that is an outflow. Kapag ikaw ay nag-issue ng long-term liabilities and issue stock dahil gusto mong mapunan yung deficiencies on the cash requirement, that is an inflow. Kapag naman ikaw ay nagbayad ng dividends, nag-repurchase ka ng common stock or nag-repay ka ng long-term liability, ibig sabihin yan ay outflow, palabas yung cash. Okay. Under the concept of statement of cash flows, laging may encounter mo yung direct and the indirect method. I know you already have learned this. Kapag direct method, simple lang. Ililista mo lang yung lahat ng cash items related to operating, investing, and financing activities. So kapag receive, positive. Kapag payment, negative. So, ang magiging guide mo dito is the tabulation. This figure. Diba? Kung anong klase yan. Kung yan ba ay operating, investing, or financing activities. Under the indirect method naman, okay, balik tayo sa direct method. The direct method, okay, kapag titingnan mo, this is ideal and theoretical. Because in practice, hindi agad-agad meron tayong details ng cash payments for the income taxes, cash payments for the interest. Normally yan, at the end of the year, makukuha pa yung items na related dyan. Kaya nga ang sinasabi dito, the primary advantage of the direct method is that it directly reports cash receipts and cash payments on the statement of cash flows. Its primary disadvantage that this data may not be readily available in the accounting records. Thus, the direct method is normally more costly to prepare and as a result is infrequently in practice. So in practice, ang mas ginagamit is the indirect method. Ano ba yung kaibahan nila? Under the indirect method, kaya siya indirect is parang baliktad kasi yung pag-compute. Kumbaga parang nag-i-squeeze ka ng item. Ginagamit natin as the beginning item, kumbaga the starting point, the net income. The net income, then we have to add or deduct all adjustments to reconcile the net income to the net cash flow from operating activities. Okay. The adjustments to reconcile the net income to net cash flow from operating activities include such items such as the depreciation, gain or losses on fixed assets. Okay. Ito yung critical on the item of the comparison or the reconciliation of the net income and the statement of cash flows. Remember, depreciation, yan ay incorporated sa yung income statement. Binabawas yan as an expense, di ba? Expense yan. So, ibig sabihin, yung net income mo, nakabawas dyan yung depreciation expense. However, in cash flow, dahil ang depreciation is a non-cash item, well, expense yan pero walang lumabas na cash. Ibig sabihin, kailangan mo yang i-add sa yung net income para mag-arrive ka doon sa talagang cash flow balance or yung cash item. Ganon din sa gains or losses on fixed assets. Okay? Sometimes yung mga impairment losses, yan. Okay. Ay kino-consider din dyan sa reconciliation ng net income to your cash flow activities. There are other some items as illustrated in this reference that will guide you on how to look at these items. Okay, cash flows from financing and normally yan inflow and outflow of activities. So, okay. Okay. Let's look at this, the cash flow per share. In management reporting, ginagamit yung cash flow per share to make wise decisions for the organization. The cash flow per share ay nako-compute by identifying the cash flow from operations divided by the number of the common shares outstanding. Remember, the common shares outstanding. Kailan lang ito ginagamit in the top management reporting? Why? Because kapag tinignan mo yung financial statement normally at yung reporting to the public, hindi natin tinapakita yung cash flow per share because this has been misinterpreted many times. Why? The cash flow per share, pag tinignan niya ng mga users at yung merong average knowledge lang on the uh, general purpose financial statements, akala nila yun yung dividends. Sometimes akala nila yun yung earnings per share. While in reality, that is not. Kasi po pwede na yung cash flow per share na yon ay gagamitin pa for operations in the succeeding period or pwedeng i-reinvest. So it will depend on the decision of the company. So it is not wise for a user, for a average user to think that the cash flow per share is the amount available for dividends or it is equivalent to the earnings per share. Kaya hindi na po yan nire-report on the financial statements but only for internal reporting purposes. And since the subject is management reporting, kailangan alam natin ito, yung cash flow per share. Okay, the formula is that the cash flow from operations divided by the number of common shares. There are items dito that will illustrate that scenario. Okay. Okay, I think this will be the last item that I will be discuss. I want to focus yung paggamit ng indirect method and yung analysis natin ng adjustments. Kasi ito naman talaga yung nakakalito when we look at the cash flow analysis. Okay. Okay. Remember, under the indirect method, we use the net income or the loss as the starting point and then we add or deduct any adjustments related to the reconciliation of the net income to the net cash flow. Remember, from operating activities, makikita mo nandyan po yung depreciation of fixed assets and the amortization of intangibles. Yan ay ina-add. Dahil yan ay originally nakabawas para mag-arrive ka sa net income. Diba? Yan ay expense sa yung income statement, nakabawas yan as an expense. Depreciation expense, amortization expense. Pero walang lumabas po dyan na cash. Kaya dapat i-add back mo yan para ma-reconcile natin yung net cash flow from operating activities. Okay. Same is true with the losses on disposal and the gains on disposal of assets. Okay, dito tayo mag-refer sa changes in current operating assets and liabilities. Ito pong increases in non-cash current operating assets na naka-blue, increases in non-cash. Okay, isa-isay natin. Tumaas yung non-cash current operating assets. Ano-ano ba yung mga non-cash? O di lahat ng current operating assets na non-cash. Mga receivables, inventory, expenses, ganon. Okay, tingnan mo po yung item, yung red, andito. Ang sabi dyan, you have to subtract yung lahat ng increases in the non-cash current operating assets. Nag-increase halimbawa yung accounts receivable. Kapag nag-increase yung accounts receivable, ibig sabihin ay Kapag nag-increase yung accounts receivable, ibig sabihin ikaw ay nagpautang. So therefore, it is proper for you to deduct this. Pag nag-increase yung inventory, ibig sabihin ikaw ay Pag nag-increase yung inventory, ibig sabihin bumili ka ng additional inventory. So dapat bawasan mo kasi may cash component dyan. Ibig sabihin, bumili ka ng inventory. And so on. Okay, let's take a look at the decreases in non-cash current operating expenses. O di kapag decreases, edi yung kabaliktaran, you add. Okay, let's proceed now with the increases in current operating liabilities. Ano ba yung current operating liabilities? O di yung mga accounts payable, accrued expenses, and the income taxes payable. Kapag nag-increase yung current operating liabilities, ibig sabihin, nag-increase yung current operating liabilities, ibig sabihin, nangutang ka. So, kung nangutang ka, meron kang na-receive na cash. So, ibig sabihin, it is proper for you to add a cash component. Next, the decreases in current operating liabilities, itong naka-red, edi yung kabaliktaran, kapag nag-decrease yung current liabilities, ibig sabihin, nagbayad ka, kaya bawasan mo. And then, you will arrive at your net cash flow from operating activities. Okay. So I think that ends the discussion for the statement of cash flows. So this is just a review. This is just a reminder. And this is remember, the course is management reporting. So we have to analyze yung statement of cash flows as we use it in making decisions for the company. Hindi yung mismong preparation pa ng statement of cash flows. So yun yung orientation natin under management reporting. Thank you.